Hi, thank you for taking the time, Asia. We appreciate you coming in for an interview to serve on the local comprehensive planning committee. And we've already introduced ourselves, so I'll jump right into the questions. Um, Really, I'm going to ask two specific. First being, why do you believe your perspective will be beneficial to this local comprehensive planning committee?
Okay, so jumping right in for me, I have been attending town council meetings, meeting people who are on all of the committees, and I've noticed that there's a voice, there's a missing middle. There are no renters on town council. There are barely any renters on any committee. And in order for our town to thrive, we need homeowners, renters, we need seniors. I don't see a lot of young people coming to the town council meeting. When I say young, I mean the under 40 population. A lot of them are working during the day and do not have time. I speak with them on a regular basis. I also have been working with communities like ours my entire career. And my goal with being on this committee, if possible, is to make sure that people who may not own a home here, basically, most people haven't rented on the town council in many years as well. So I want to make sure that the voices of renters and the younger population on the Cape are heard.
Okay, thank you. What about now you're going to be interacting in a group of, it's between 9 and 15. We're down several at this point, so at least a dozen. Um, how do you define consensus and how do you see yourself interacting with the group to achieve it?
Very good question. So for me, I have had to work with a variety of people my whole career. I've, for example, when I'm going to give you an example, when I lived in DC, I first started getting involved in politics there. I had a piece of legislation that I needed to get passed. I worked with Democrats, Republicans, and independents to get the only piece of legislation that went through the House, the Senate, and the White House in early part of 2018 during the Trump era. A lot of people would not even listen to the other side just because of their political party. So what I did is, for my level of consensus building, my belief is that I'm going to listen to what you have to say. We are going to try to come to a solution. You can't always win. Sometimes you just have to sit still and be quiet and listen to what people have to say. But I believe that sometimes you have to stand your ground. There are some times when someone may be wrong and you have to say, hey, everyone's going to get their voice, everyone's going to have their say. But I feel like the loudest voice in the room, it seems like on the Cape, is who wins things. I go to every town meeting and there are a group of people that are very, very loud. I'm not going to agree with these people. And I know this because we come from different worlds and different backgrounds. My belief is we have to work together. Sometimes I'm not going to get my way, and sometimes I'm not going to win. But if it's for the better of society as a whole, I'm willing to step back and let people take the lead. But if they're going to leave out people and neglect people, I will call them out for it because sometimes, you know, people need to be corrected. Or if there's a disagreement on a policy, for example, I know I disagreed with Gordon Starr on parking matters. I took him and we discussed it and reviewed parking at Village Green, realizing we didn't need all the parking spots. So my belief is try to show people where my views are, but also say to them, hey, can you show me why I should agree with you? And if they make a good enough argument, hey, I'm willing to change sides. But sometimes you have to stand your ground, but you also have to say, I'm willing to shut up and listen and not be right because I may be wrong. So it's accepting when you're wrong as well as saying, hey, I'm going to listen to everyone.
Thank you. I do have another one, a little bit different area. So Asia, um, you know, everybody who volunteers is greatly appreciated, and it is a time commitment. And just a question, do you have, you've applied, you're here interviewing, do you have the time to commit to this committee? And
How
maybe
how
that,
long?
well, that's what I was going to kick it over to Elizabeth or Kate, just so everybody knows what that commitment is and about the duration of it.
Yeah, yeah. So this committee, I mean, this is a long range comprehensive plan that we're putting together. So it is it is an extended process. The committee traditionally has met once a month, typically on a Thursday opposite of council. We mapped out the work plan for where we think we need to get to an approved comprehensive plan, and we anticipate this process extending through April of 2025.
Okay, that's reasonable. I mean, once a month is reasonable. I'm a remote worker who kind of picks her schedule. So if I know that there's a meeting, what I would do is just say, hey, I'm not going to log in during that 4 hour window, and I can just log in at 5 o'clock. I pick my hours, so I have the time. And I've learned that those who show up make the decisions. So I plan to show up to everything I can so that I can make sure that I am here to help in any way I can.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that response. Not sure what other questions Paula or Jeff may have, but certainly please ask.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up sort of on the time commitment piece, but also the nature of, I believe this part of the LCPC process is going to be much more technical. And I'm sorry for the background noise, technical. And, I just wanted to see if you have a comfort level with that, if it's kind of the nitty gritty. And I just wanted to, with truth in advertising, make sure this is you think it's a good fit.
Well, I was on Obama's White House Technology Council for 4 years. And being on that committee, I had to work with different voices. And I'm willing to learn. My belief is I don't know everything. And I'm never going to know everything. But I'm willing to take the time and ask all the questions to learn. And I believe that to me is the most important, that you're willing to learn. Because if you're not willing to learn from the group that you're working with, then you're not doing it right. I will take the time, ask the questions, go and learn and read the policies on my own time. I don't need anyone to handhold me. I want to be here to make sure that I help in any way I can. I mean, we're going to be discussing things like housing. As a renter who does not make a lot of money, there's a demographic that doesn't get a chance to come to town council meetings. I have made sure to take the time to meet with those people, spoken to over 200 renters in the past 2 weeks. And I realized that a lot of them don't have the time to show up to every single meeting and get their voices heard. And I want to be a voice for the voiceless, like I've been for the past 18 years in my career.
Thank you. All right. Any other, Paula? Any other questions? Nope. Jeff, any? You good? Elizabeth? Do we have anything? How are we sharing the phase 1 data that you've compiled? I know it's available on the website, but for somebody who's going to sit in a committee and somebody who, like Asia, who is saying that she's going to do her homework, how do you envision that for a new committee member?
That's a great question, Mark. And admittedly, I don't think we've been thoughtful about that yet, but we can certainly put together, like we do for all of our boards, committees, and commissions, sort of an onboarding process That's very typical for us when we bring in new, say, planning board members or zoning board members, is we have sort of a packet of materials and take the opportunity, if they want to come in and walk them through the process and explain the charge. So we can think about replicating that for the local comprehensive planning committee.
And I'm willing to, like I said, if I have to come into the town council and sit there for 5 hours following Elizabeth or someone else around, I will gladly do that because I want to learn and I want to be able to be here in the community and give as much time as necessary. Because I read an op-ed a while ago that said, those who show up determine our town values and what happens at the town and local level. And if you don't show up and don't volunteer, you will not get your voice heard. And to be honest with you, I'm sick of the voices that I hear only being seniors, retired, very wealthy people who have been controlling our town for a very long time. And we need to make some changes when it comes to committees so that we can engage the younger audience, because a lot of us would be involved if we knew that there were things available. So my goal being on this committee is to make sure that we increase educational services, make sure that we increase housing, make sure that we increase local jobs for our workforce, because we do need more job training programs. We're right on the water. We should be having marine biology programs to better save our environment. We could do that right here on the Cape and create a program at the community college. There's a lot of things we can do, and I would love to help in any way I can, even if I'm not on a committee.
Thank you. All right, I don't have any other questions, Elizabeth, at this time.
All right, thank
What's
you
the
so much.
next step? So we're gonna get back to our applicants in the near future, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, you'll get I'll reach out to you, Asia, and let you know where we are in terms of
No
timeline.
problem. You guys
All
are
right.
located, so I will pop in if I don't hear from you guys.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Take care.
Thank you,
Bye bye.
All right, all set. I have Katya.
Yes, proceed.
Hello.
Hi, Katya. Welcome.
Hi.
How are you, Katia?
I am doing okay. I have to tell you, I am not in US right now. I am in Amazonas. So, full screen. Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah, so I had to come to visit my family. And yeah, so it's raining now. And it's really in the middle of the jungles. So I hope that we don't lose connection, but I am here and thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I think at least your face is familiar to me from Barnstable, No Place for Hate. I'm Elizabeth Jenkins, the planning director. This is Kate Maldonado from my team. The group today that just has a few questions for you is Town Manager Mark Ells, Town Councilor Paula Schnepp, and Town Councilor Jeff Mendez. I'll turn it over to Mark, but before we get started, I just wanted to let you know and make sure it was okay with you that we have been recording these interviews just for transparency and posterity. So wanted to disclose that this was being recorded.
It's fine.
Okay.
All right. Great. Okay, so I have a couple of questions. But what I'll do is, and at the end, I'm going to ask Elizabeth just to provide a little bit of information about onboarding potential committee members. But first question is, why do you think your perspective will benefit the local comprehensive planning committee?
I do live in Barnstable for 20 years. I am an immigrant. I do have, reason that I apply is to be a voice for my communities. So I think my perspective, what I see and what what I got from my community, that I really have direct contact with them like every day, will benefit the town, will benefit this community, so we can serve a community that is really, is growing. I don't know if I answer your question.
It does, and I think it's growing in many ways, including who lives here and who those who live here are. So thank you. Now you're going to be working in a group of between 9 and 17. Right now, I think we're probably going to be over a dozen in the group as we add a few more members. How do you see yourself working with the group to achieve consensus, and how do you see that occurring?
I have my opinion, but I have to listen others. We have to get to a agreement where we advocate for a goal of the community. It's not my goal, but of my communities, the people we are there representing. So I, open to listen, and if I don't agree, I will try to, gonna make my points. But when we agree, I will stand for the agreement of this, the consensus we got. So.
Okay, thank you. So we're right at a critical point in moving from the data collection phase into the analysis and development of the local comprehensive plan. So when I'm done, I'm going to ask Elizabeth just to kind of talk a little bit about how to onboard committee members. But I do want to ask you, this is a significant time commitment on your part. And certainly as a new member, you're going to be educating yourself, if you haven't already, on what the committee has done in its first phase, and the relevance to what we do here in the town of Barnstable. So I just want Elizabeth to give you a little background on time and commitment, and then to make sure from your perspective that as an applicant, if we choose you to join the committee, that you can do it. You've got the time to be able to commit. So Elizabeth?
Thanks, Mark. So the objective of this committee is to put together a long-range, comprehensive land use plan for the town of Barnstable, looking ahead 20, 30 years into our future, and establishing the policies and actions that'll get us to where we collectively see ourselves and where we hope to see ourselves in the future. So it's a big effort. We're going to touch on all sorts of things. Again, land use, housing, economic development, natural resources, transportation. The committee traditionally has met at least once a month, typically in an 1.5 to 2 hour meetings on the Thursday opposite town council. And when we've mapped out our schedule to hit all of those issue areas and to get to a final plan, we do anticipate this process running through at least April of 2025. So in very broad strokes, that's the commitment I think that we're asking people to, the journey that we're asking people to come along with us on.
Wonderful. That's manageable. You know, I do have my goal is to serve my community, and I am busy, but this is a biggest part and important part that I would have a commitment. I'll have this time to be there, to be present, and I probably have to do more through the months. Not the meeting is 1.5 hours, but yeah. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's great. Yeah, we really hope that, certainly, especially as we get new voices in, helping to spread the word and come to community engagement events, having that, having that buy-in and that participation from our members has added a huge amount of value to the process. And as Mark noted, because folks who will be coming in now, we're not part of that phase 1 process where we did a lot of that community outreach. We'll make sure, as staff and as the sort of technical advisors to the process, that we make available to you materials in, you know, a nice summary and overview format of how we got to where we are in phase one, and always happy. Our door is always open to come and sit down and walk you through that process and expectations going forward.
Fantastic.
So
Thank you.
Katja, do you feel
Yes.
comfortable with that? We're, you know, moving in from that kind of community engagement and data gathering into kind of the technical aspects of putting a plan together. Does that feel like something that's a good fit for you?
I think so. I am looking forward to do that.
Okay, great.
Thank you. I have to learn. I love to learn. So I don't know everything, but I want to ask questions if that's okay. And yes, I want to be part of this.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, Paula or Jeff? No. Elizabeth, anything else to add?
No, I'll just add that we are continuing to go through the interview process, and my office will be in touch with you shortly in terms of decision making and next steps.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
Yeah, safe travels.
Thank you. I stay here. It was like they didn't have rain for a month, and yesterday and today is like pouring. I don't know if you ever heard about the rain in Amazons. Like, if you get a bucket and you throw, and it's just like, wow. The dirt earth will soak in, but like in 2-3 hours. But it is like it's lovely. I love here. This is my town. That's so it's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the
Thank
time
you.
with family. So,
Okay.
bye. All right. Do not have Alyssa just yet, but I did tell her 2:30. So a little breather.
So are we settled that we'll move forward with 3 at this point, or will we, well, maybe I should wait till we're done. It's probably better once we hear everybody so we can see where we are and how we want to proceed.
I agree with that.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
All right. I'll let you know when she comes in.
I think the questions that we've selected to ask are achieving the purpose for what we're doing. So thank you.
Yeah. And I like the consistency with the questions we asked the last time. It
Mhm.
feels like it makes sense.
Right.
Is anybody looking for another kid? Because I have a dog I can give away. He won't leave me alone, ever. I'm sure you see him on all these meetings popping his head up because he's always on my lap.
Don't bring him to my house because he'll never leave, Jeff.
What's your address?
Greg will be truck.
I just found out we have dog regulations and that those are in review right now. So
Yeah, there are some recommended changes
Mhm.
by MEA right now.
mhm.
I was speaking with someone the other day, and they were surprised to know that the registering your dog was more than just entering your dog into the best dog contest. There were actually like a purpose to and regulations behind getting your dog registered with the clerk's office.
Well, it's amazing how many people don't do what's necessary, as far as shots and et
Yeah.
cetera with their dogs. So
Yeah.
to me, that's why registration's so important.
Yeah, see, he has all his shots, but
Yep.
he's actually
Yeah.
a resident of Serbia. That's
Oh,
where he's
really?
actually a resident of, because that's where he
No
came from.
kidding.
And we have
Wow.
an apartment in Belgrade.
Wow.
And so my ex got him as a gift for me from her friend who breeds. And he'll go over there with her. So he travels a lot, but he's actually a resident there, but she's on the road for work. So he's been with me now for like the last year or so.
Wow.
Mm.
But he has all the shots. He goes to the vet right up the street. So don't worry, Mark. You don't have to have me arrested over here.
It seems like you guys have bonded because he won't get off your lap. So.
Oh, he's not going anyway. He's my best friend. I love him.
All right, I have Alyssa. I'll let her in.
All right.
Great.
Hi, Alyssa. Can you hear me?
Hi, how are you?
Good, great. We can hear you too. Hi, Alyssa. I'm Elizabeth Jenkins. I'm the Director of Planning and Development for the town of Barnstable. This is Kate Maldonado from my office. Thank you so much for applying for the local comprehensive planning committee and for jumping on today at short notice. The committee, the group that will be selecting the committee are those on your screen today. Barnstable Town Manager Mark Ells, Town Councilor Paula Schnepp, and Town Councilor Jeff Mendes. I wanted to let you know that make sure that it was okay with you that we are recording these interviews just for transparency and openness should we need them in the future, and just make sure that was okay.
Sure.
All right, great. I'll turn it over to Mark.
All right.
Well, hi, Melissa. How
Hello.
are you? Thank
I'm good.
you.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for taking the time. I'm gonna go through a couple of questions that we have and then open it up if there's any general questions. And then Elizabeth's gonna close talking a little bit about where we are in the local comprehensive plan, the time commitment associated with it, and making sure that that all works for you if we proceed with, asking you to serve on the committee. So my first question is, why do you believe your perspective will be beneficial to the local comprehensive planning committee?
Sure. So I am a teacher in Barnstable. I have been for over 10 years. I started in 2012 as a school assistant at the Horace Mann Charter School. I have a daughter in Barnstable. She's 7 and in 2nd grade. So I'm very passionate about the future of Barnstable. To me, that is very important. It's kind of, I think about it a lot. And if I want my child to continue growing up in the town of Barnstable, I want to kind of be involved in the kind of future planning. So when I kind of saw this come up, I was really interested in learning more about it. And I read like the final vision statement that you guys put out there. And I just feel like my values really align with the values that kind of came up in that. And I think as an educator, I think I have a unique perspective as a teacher and being around the youth. I just think that a lot of our visions as a school district itself kind of align very well to the visions of the local comprehensive planning committee. So I just think that really my passion and commitment to the town is kind of why I would like to join.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Thank you. And certainly your perspective is needed as we go forward with this. So now you're going to be working on a committee that's already in place, and it can be between 9 and 17 by the way we laid out how many would be on the committee. We're going to look to put several on. There'll be more than a dozen people some already serving and then a few new. How do you see yourself working on a committee like that? And how would you see yourself being able to come to consensus on issues? How would you get to consensus in a working committee like that?
Yeah, sure. Very difficult, I think, especially in our day and age to get consensus, seeing every day. But like my experience as a teacher, we have very strong teachers in our building that have been there for a long time. And I understand that it is challenging to have everybody agree upon solutions to problems. But I think if we kind of have the vision, a shared vision, and kind of shared values, which I feel like kind of, if you can find that common ground with people and just really go through like an inquiry process for finding solutions, I feel like at that point, if you're taking all of the options into consideration and kind of working through an inquiry process to kind of make a decision, I think that that's like the best way to come to a consensus, and maybe put personal feelings aside and just try to kind of come to a common ground. But I feel like I'm a pretty good listener, and I would like to say I can see like multiple solutions to problems, and I hope that that would be kind of beneficial for the committee and with the other members working together.
Well, I thought you were going to talk about your third graders that are going to come over here and help us with, the various programs we have. I'm getting a visit from Miss Chase in about a week or so. So
Yeah, on election day, we're going to go visit Mark.
very
So
exciting.
I'm very excited about that. And that's all
Yep.
about reducing our impact on the environment, which is kind of really ties in well with local comprehensive planning. So, yeah.
Yep. Okay, well, those are my two primary questions. Paula or Jeff, if you have any, and then we'll bring Elizabeth back in, and I think I'll ask you another question after that.
Sounds great. Thanks.
Well, Mark, actually, I think you usually have asked before I have asked my question about the time commitment. But I can ask. So, Alyssa, you obviously have a lot on your plate. The comprehensive planning process is a fairly substantial commitment of time, and Elizabeth can, say a little bit more about what that is, but we just want to make sure it's a good fit for you and the committee with what all has to be done. Elizabeth, did you want to?
Sure. So I'll just jump in. Alyssa, I know you've been following phase one of the process, it sounds like, and again, had some great sort of existing conditions data and that vision statement that came out of it. Then you'll know it's typical that our local comprehensive planning committee meets about once a month. I should say at least once a month, typically in an evening after hours around 5:30 on a Thursday opposite of town council. And given that the goal of this process is to create a long-range 20-year vision for land use and change and growth and development and preservation in Barnstable, we anticipate having to tackle a number of topics that fall under this umbrella, and the process extending through at least April of 2025. So in broad strokes, that's what we're looking for time commitment of people. And then certainly we encourage all of our members to get involved in things like, social media and sharing the different engagement opportunities and coming to the public meetings and things like that as well.
Yeah. You said Thursdays at 5:30.
Again, that's typical. People have told us that if they could plan on it, it does help moving forward. So right now we're trying to gain consensus at looking at, is it the second and fourth, with a particular focus on the fourth Thursdays of the month.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that right now Thursdays works for me. Mondays are my challenging days with staff meetings at school. But really, as long as I have it planned for, then I can commit to that.
Well, great. Thank you. Thank you. Now, Elizabeth, did you want to say anything about, well, it sounds like Ms. Chase may already be up to date, but the first phase was a lot of data gathering to be able to prepare the members to work toward developing this plan, the updated local comprehensive plan. So, Elizabeth, just talk for a second about onboarding a new member and make sure Ms. Chase knows what she's in for here.
Absolutely. So yeah, we have some pretty extensive reports that came out of that first session, both public engagement and existing conditions. I actually think it would be, talking through it, very constructive to help sort of develop summaries of that information. And then, you know, we're always available, Kate and I, to come in and just, you know, spend a few minutes walking you through where we've been and where we're looking at going forward.
Okay.
All right. Well, unless Paula or Jeff have additional questions, you've answered mine. And I think that'll conclude your interview. And thank you for taking the time. We greatly appreciate it. Elizabeth, so you're going to get, you already said you're going to get back to them in the next week is what
we're going to have a follow-up discussion. Now this concludes our interviews for the day, and we'll certainly keep in touch relative to timing and appointments going forward.
All right.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, of course.
Thank
I'll
you.
see you next week, Mark. Thank you.
Bye-bye.